Hello, I'm Miss Amy, and this is our first creation challenge video. So what we're hoping to do with these is inspire you to create things at home and then share them with us at the library if you would like to do so. So today we are going to do a creation challenge about poetry. April is National Poetry Month, so we're going to celebrate some poetry with this challenge. Poetry, if you don't know what it is or aren't familiar with it, is basically a type of writing that some people say can appeal to our imaginations or to our emotions or feelings. There are many different kinds of poetry, and the main thing that distinguishes it from other types of writing is that usually when you're writing poetry, you're thinking or choosing and arranging the words to think about what they mean, and you're also thinking about how they sound and what kind of rhythm they create in the poem. So all those things go into how you might create a poem. Poems can be all kinds of things, though. They can be whatever you feel that you're creating. They can be short or long. They can be funny or serious. They can be rhyming, but they don't have to rhyme. They can tell a story. They can describe a scene. Poetry is a very open-ended form of writing for you to create with. So I want to tell you about a couple different types of poems that you could try out. I'm also going to be putting in the description of the video 2 links to websites. One will have different poetry activities that you can try to kind of get your imagination going, and the other site will have some articles about poetry and some samples of poems for kids that you can read. So let's go over a couple of different types of poems that you might have heard of or you might want to try. So the first type of poem is called a haiku. And so a haiku originated in Japan, this type of poetry, and it usually describes animals or a nature scene, but it doesn't have to. And the main thing with haiku is the structure of it. So there's only 3 lines in a haiku. The first line has 5 syllables. The second line has 7 syllables. And the third line, again, has 5 syllables. So an example of a haiku is: green and speckled legs, hop on logs and lily pads, splash in cool water. And that's the whole thing. That's the whole poem. So how you break that down into the syllables is green and speckled legs. That's first line. Hop on logs and lily pads. Second line, 7. And the third line, splash in cool water. That's how you do it. Another type of poem that you might want to try is a limerick. Limericks are also fairly short. They're about 5 lines long, and they're usually funny. And you probably actually know a limerick already without realizing it. The nursery rhyme Little Miss Muffet is a limerick. Little Miss Muffet sat on her tuffet, eating some curds and whey. Along came a spider who sat down beside her and frightened Miss Muffet away. That's a limerick. You might also want to do an acrostic poem. So that's where you take a word and you write it vertically down a sheet of paper like this. So I did library. And so when you write the word down vertically, then that each letter in the word becomes the first letter of a line of your poem. Now, when you're doing something like an acrostic, you can write a phrase for each letter if you want, or just a single word. I did both, so you could see how that looks. So my library acrostic poem is: lost among the shelves, I search for just the right book. Reading always rocks. Yes. So that is what an acrostic looks like. You can also do something that's called a concrete poem. So a concrete poem is a poem written in the shape of an image. So you might want to draw something first and then write about what you've drawn in the shape of that image. So this is a poem that I wrote called Ripple. And it is meant to look like the ripples that you might see in a pond when you throw something in and it makes a splash and the ripples go out into the water. So, and that's what the poem is about, a rock that gets thrown into the pond, and the ripples go out, and the boy who threw the rock sees the ripples and thinks about how it, one little action can change everything. So that's a concrete poem. You might also want to do something called collage poetry or found poetry. And so that would be if you have something with writing on it that you're recycling or getting rid of, like a magazine, newspaper, junk mail, whatever that has writing on it. You can take that, cut out the words, and then use those words to create a poem. So this is one that I made out of some newspaper advertisements. So mine, the title is Family Favorites, and the poem says, "Time together, our gifts, safe and healthy, our needs, every day giving our best." And so that's what it looks like. You can just create it out of the words. You could even draw or design more if you wanted to do that. Another cool activity that you could do is to put a bunch of random objects in a bag and then reach in there, and without looking at which one you're picking, just feel it, try to get a sense for what it is and describe what you're feeling. And then you can use those words to create a poem about that object. There's a lot of different poetry activities that you can do to get started. A bunch more are at the link that I'm going to put in the description for this video. And also in the description is going to be an email address. So if you are inspired to create a poem and you would like to share it with us at the library, please send it to the email address that's in the description, and we will share them in a future video. So thanks for watching, and hope everyone is well. Bye.